Okay, I'd like to call the September 3rd, 2024 Capital Improvements Board meeting to order. Christine, you can take roll call.
Mr. Blessed?
Here.
Mrs. Hartman? Here. Mr. Haddix?
Here. Okay. We don't have any audience participation today?
No.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 27, 2023 meeting. First motion?
First.
Kristen, second? Okay. The minutes have been approved.
Take a roll call. All in favor?
All in favor
Aye.
of the minutes?
Aye.
Thank you. Continuation of the 2025 requests.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So last week we went over the fitness center, the golf course, and who am I forgetting?
Parks and Rec.
Yes.
Parks and Rec.
And Parks and Rec. So to group like things alike, this evening we're going to be talking to Public Works and the phases of Public Works. So we will have, starting first, we'll have Amy Moore, the city engineer, to talk about infrastructure and engineering. You can either read what I wrote, Amy, or you could
No,
just
I can kind of
go off on
through
all
that.
your projects.
The first one, good evening.
Good evening.
The first one is the road program, and we lump a lot of stuff into the road program. Our typical road program is just a mill and fill, the surface. It's like painting the house. It's not redoing and reconstructing the road from the bottom up. It's taking the surface course off, giving good surface course, sealing it so that water can't infiltrate down through the pavement, and it extends the life of the pavement. So that's a big chunk of our program. We budget about 1.4 just for that type of the portion of the program. Right now I have in my streets, which you don't have a list of, I've got a running total of about 2.5 million, so I have to basically now prioritize those that we went out and looked at and come up with about 1.4. But that's what we ask for typically, is 1.4 in the general resurfacing program. We also include sidewalks. We're looking at doing some city-owned parking lot repairs. The police department, fire, will do another section of that. We did a section of concrete last year. We're looking at upgrading all of our traffic signals in the future. And the first phase of that was to do a whole analysis of the traffic signals in the city, and there were a couple that weren't warranted. One was the one at Church in Ravenna, and we spoke with council about possibly removing that due to there's a lot of people that shortcut that intersection going through the plaza whenever it's red, a lot of people that sit there for a long period of time. So redoing some of the curb work in there so that the signal could come out. We'll put a crosswalk on Ravenna Road that will have the flashing beacons, and then we're looking at narrowing the section on Church Street so that you're not going 80 feet to cross the street. It's going to be closer to 50 feet at the intersection. And it will be a stop control on Church Street. So we're going to run a quick test of that this year. We're going to do it with cones and barrels later this month, we think. And then if it all works out, we run all of our trucks and different things through there, and it seems like it's a good solution there. We're looking at putting that into the road program. Also, we're looking at paving the cemetery. And we're looking at a repair on the Center Valley Bike Path. And the other one you might have in on there for bidding, may not listed directly there, but we're also looking at, and I think you have it later in the slide, is the pickleball courts,
Yes.
which that would be at Glen Meadow Park. So that covers a lot of the road program stuff. That's kind of listed in a different way on the slides, but that's basically what we're looking at completing.
So when we do the voting in a couple weeks, I will break everything down by fund. So Amy's road program and infrastructure, the majority of it will come to the street construction and maintenance repair fund. But there are other portions, so like the police department / building department parking lot, the cemetery paving and the bike path paving, as well as the pickleball courts, which are a little bit later, will all come out of general capital improvement fund. So it's split up into, as you'll see with a lot of Amy's projects, they're split up into multiple places due to funding, due to grant funding, and due to just general repairs that the city wants to put on.
Yeah, And the SCMR is a streets, roadway, highway maintenance fund, which is gas tax funds. So it can't be used for anything other than actual roadways, and that's why the other funds.
Any questions on the road program?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, then the annual road striping program, since the EPA required us to go to more of a latex paint instead of an oil-based paint, we do that almost annually. A couple years, we kind of slowed the roll a little bit on that, but it wears off pretty fast being a latex paint on that type of use. So that will be included in the project. That's coming out of two funds. One state highway, which would be 82 and 91, and then the other one would be our SCMR, which covers Ravenna Road and a lot of the other miscellaneous markings throughout the city. And then the next on the list was the traffic signal design. As I said, we started a study on the traffic signals. We're looking at then going out to a full design. That's for the whole, all the signals in the city, over 30 traffic signals in the city. Smart signal operation, our old programming, you can't even get some of the pieces parts in the service department to do some of the repairs. They have to reconstruct. Again, the software that's been working there is no longer being supported. So we're looking at upgrading that along with our emergency response system that's on top so that it clears the signals. First thing, like I said, is design. We did apply for a grant, which was through the Inflation Reduction Act. It's not overly hopeful for that grant for design services, but it's out there, so I haven't heard anything on that. It's only been in for a couple months. But we will be looking at doing this design, and then there is funding for construction applications that will be due next year through different funding sources that we'll be looking at. And the more you are advanced in your project, the little better score you get. So we would like to start on the design before we get into some issues of not even being able to replace pieces parts.
So one of the things for the traffic signal design, we're going to include it in Amy's engineering operating budget for right now because we have not heard back whether the grant on this has been awarded. We would still ask for you to vote on it because if we do receive the grant, then it would be split between those three funds that are listed. If not, we're still going to move forward with the project, but the money has to be allocated somewhere. Any questions on traffic signals?
So the $750,000 will either be paid for by grant or it'll come out of the fund,
It will come out of general fund.
out of the general fund.
Right.
And is this to replace all the traffic lights or is this to replace just?
It's
the
all
main
the, it's all the traffic lights in the city except for the one at Ravenna Shepherd because we're upgrading that. And then I think the new one over at, over the, well, Church Street would be coming out.
Right, you're eliminating that one.
Yeah, and the one over by the old Chrysler, the Independence Parkway, that one's brand new.
Okay.
And it's got the back plate. If you've seen the difference between it, it has the safety back plates and a lot of the other things that
they look a
basically
lot
will be
nicer.
incorporated into all the other ones.
Okay.
So Amy, do you replace the 30 lights in a year, or is this a 3-year phase, or?
This is, we're
Other
looking.
ones have boxes and they're all separate. I know these are on a network, but, I mean, how do you?
We're looking for a whole grant to do the whole replacement. Again, our system is so old, the Econolite, the software, everything we're using to run, can tell you that probably not everything is functional as far as EMS, being able to overdo some of the lights. So there's just
We
issues.
do
with
the
system.
installation ourselves, or do we?
We hire it out, we'll bid it out. And what I'm looking for is either CMAQ, which is air quality funding, because again, you're less delay because you're moving traffic better through there, or STP, which is, again, state funding. So both of those two different funding opportunities come up next year, and they're usually an 80-20. So 80% would be basically federal money, 20% would be local match.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you.
Okay, Ohio Public Works, we applied for lining of sanitary sewer on Highland Road. That's currently in application. We have not been awarded that funding yet. Our score, I do a pre-score on it, looks pretty good. That funding would become available next July. So we'd be looking at, if we receive the funding, looking at bidding that in the fall of next year, so it would have to be in the budget. Again, that one's a 50/50 match. And a lot of that matching, or how we match things, has to do with points and scoring and whether we're going to get the funding. Shepherd Road, we went in with Macedonia, and this is a section of Shepherd Road that goes through Macedonia up to the 480 bridge. So we went into them last year for an Ohio Public Works application. That'd be the same thing. If it was awarded, it would be awarded in July, and then we'd move forward with bidding that out with Macedonia. They'll be the lead, but we wanted to make sure we had our matching money available in the budget.
So that road's going to finally be fixed the way it should have been 5 years ago? It's going to go
No,
straight?
That's a different
No,
section.
no, no.
Oh, forget it.
That's another problem.
No, and that's a whole
Talking about
different
the
thing,
intersection of Shepherd,
which still
Richmond.
stays at an angle, yeah.
so,
But it provides, that intersection is bid this fall, and that provides turn lanes. It doesn't actually, we didn't buy up the plaza. I mean, there's constrained or the other industrial property. It provides turn lanes, and then the turn lanes would be synchronized with what's coming at you in the opposite direction that doesn't exist right now in split signals. So it'll provide right turns on Ravenna, right turns on Broadway, and a left turn off from Shepherd.
So the Shepherd Road would just be a grind and
It's just a-
re-asphalt?
yeah,
There's
it's
no
just a-
curbs?
Yeah, it's
Not
just a
lot of curbs?
resurfacing, just a slate, that's what,
it'd be
Oh,
road.
just the road?
Just the
Okay.
road?
just the road.
Going the other way.
Yeah.
All right,
And that's south of the 480 bridge into Macedonia.
okay. Sounds good. Does anybody have any questions on that project?
Sorry.
State Route 82 was, I think, in this year's budget, but ODOT's not actually bidding it until early next year, so it will just move from, it was approved last year, it will just move, we need to move it in the budget years, so it needs to be rebudgeted. They do the project, so, but it's on behalf, the state routes are basically within the city required to be maintained by the city, but they have what's called an urban paving fund. So they'll do the paving, pay 80% of the cost, we have to just match theirs. So even though it says grant funding, it's kind of money that just comes, they're paying for it, but because it's our roadway, we have to log it through finance, so. So the big chunk of money is just a accounting process. Any questions on that one? That's really going out of town. That's from the Tinkers Creek bridge area on 82 going out of town, and then it continues. And then the bridge design is the Glenwood Drive Bridge over Tinkers Creek. So we're looking at using our permissive tax funding for that. And we'll be going into design, so that's just budgeting the design dollars at this point.
Is that a county bridge?
It is a county bridge. The sidewalks they are not doing the side, yeah. It's a county bridge, but we're partnering so that we can have sidewalks put on the bridge, along with a few other things that
But we're not paying for the bridge. The county would
we
pay?
pay a portion, we're paying a portion of that bridge. We have a whole agreement that went through council, I believe, that kind of had the breakdown of how we were moving that project forward.
Okay.
So at this point, it will be designed, construction, I think, is anticipated in 2028. The only things you'll see next year is some bat houses going up in the area, because we do have bats under the bridge, so we do have a pretty extensive environmental clearance process to do.
So 82 would be covered by grants?
82 is actually an urban paving program, so yes, 80% of it will be paid by the state.
20 euros?
In terms of directly, usually we get the money as far as a grant, but they'll actually do it, so yeah.
Okay. And then the bridge, the Glenwood Bridge is a 2028 project?
It's a 2028 project. The county did get bridge program funding for doing a portion of it, but there's still matches associated with that. So we're matching a smaller percentage, giving us percentage because we are looking at those sidewalks, and we have a water line that goes underneath it, which basically is 100% us. So there are things that we have dollars that have to go into that bridge to make it all happen, so.
So if this is a 2028 project, is there some kind of 20,
This is design, well, I'm asking for
Design
design
work.
money.
120,
Just wants the upfront
just to
Yeah.
have the design work
We'll
done.
be coming back
$120,000? Okay.
in late 2027 for our 2028 money, or maybe even before that, it might be 2026 if they want to bid it.
Okay.
So the 82 project that was approved in '24, is that money then sitting and we're asking for it to roll over, or
So-
it has to start again?
We have to reappropriate it because we don't have anything encumbered, because we don't have a vendor to pay. We just asked that we plan to do the project, so we just need to reappropriate the money for next year.
Yeah, nothing sits, because every year, you have to do a budget every year. So anything you don't use just kind of disappears. It doesn't disappear, the money's still there, but you have to
Start over,
ask
okay.
for it again, and,
Okay.
okay?
Any questions on the 82 project or the bridge project on Glenwood?
Okay. Emergency repairs, we always put money associated with work for sewer work, utility works. I think we already have in there maybe one little project for lining from wastewater. But again, that could be a lateral, a service lateral from a house in the street. The portion in the street is the city's. Then it becomes, once you go into private property, it becomes the private property owner. So that's just a unknown number as it comes up. We hope we budget appropriately and don't need more in that money, and we've been pretty good about that. And then capital improvement fund, we always do an annual tree planting program. We're to much smaller tree planting programs than we used to do. We no longer have developments for planting, although we used to get the money from the developer to help augment that, but we did the planting and the maintenance on that. This is more tree replacement issues or areas that might need trees. So it could be storm damage, took down trees, dead trees associated with emerald ash borer or whatever.
You still do a spring and a fall?
No, we actually only do one typically, and it's a fall planting because we are, 30,000, it's not a huge amount of trees. I think we have
Like 80?
50 trees. Yeah, it's probably
We were paying
350 to
350
400,
now? Okay.
375, somewhere in there. Depends on species of tree and what have you. So we just do one in the fall now. And we don't even actually, because it's so low, we don't actually go out to bid. We send it out to 3-4 different tree companies that have worked in the past to plant trees and get the quotes and get it done in the fall.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the new pickleball courts that we talked about earlier that will be bid with the road program if they move forward. Those will be at Glen Meadow Park, near where the other ones are associated with that. And then I have a vehicle, I have a construction manager coming on board in the next couple of weeks, so we're slowly getting staff back up after the layoffs that occurred during COVID. So looking for a new vehicle, and if you want to know specifics on vehicles, Fred will cover vehicles whenever he covers vehicles. I just asked for an SUV-type vehicle so that stuff, equipment, measuring things, everything can get in the back of the vehicle as opposed to a normal car. And we're not too picky, just something serviceable that covers us, and I leave it up to them.
So the new pickleball courts are these three, I don't know how many pickleball courts are over there. Are they three more than what's ever over there?
I think there's 4.
They're additional.
They're additional? So they're
Yeah, it's not redoing the pickleball courts, it's adding some
3 more.
additional.
Okay.
I think we were slightly less than what we already have. It's a small space. We've still got to, if it goes forward, then I get a better layout of how we're going to put them in there. But
Do we have an idea on the current use of the ones that are there now?
it's a Parks and Rec question, but I think,
Constant use.
I-
Yeah, I get several calls, and they're crazy calls, but people from outside the city are using them, which I don't think we can outlaw them, but and then our people don't have any opportunity to use them, and if you go by there at any given time, there's, the parking lot's full. I mean, it's just been, last year we resurfaced the current ones, and, there was a big outcry for that because they needed it. So, yeah, we get several calls for those because they are in use quite a bit.
So is parking going to be an issue? I mean, I knew it was back in the day, but then they put the fence up on there. So is it still, will there be enough parking over there with baseball and soccer and pickleball? And
Probably on baseball nights, it may be. It's going to
Okay.
be
Gonna
a concern.
be, okay.
But I think that most of the play is during the day, especially the people that play regularly all the time are the older folks.
They start at 7 in the morning.
Not necessarily
Really?
seniors,
Play,
but,
you don't
below
see a lot
that.
at
And,
night.
Okay.
they're packed during the day, constantly.
Okay.
And then they have leagues and so on and so forth. And, I get calls that, they're going out of town to play because our courts, they're always used, they're always taken. So I think Glen Willow just put up courts, and I know Solon has courts now.
Well, it has a company that went in there and
Yeah.
built an indoor facility.
Yeah.
And we do have indoor here, but it's not as popular as you could imagine. They'd rather be outside and play outside. Indoor is nice for the winter. Yeah.
Sounds good. Any questions on the emergency repairs or capital improvements? Great, thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
All right,
Hey, I
I'm-
just want to, if I can, talk to the board. Dale's here, our chief building official, and he's only got one item. He's on the last of the agenda. So I would like to move him forward if we possibly could to get him in and out of here, because the others have a few more detail that they need to go into.
Come on
So
up,
if the
Dale.
board's okay with it, I'd like to have Dale go next.
For sure.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, Finance, Board. Dale Steppenbacher, the new Chief Building Official. Got here in March. I replaced Keith Folks. He was probably in front of some of you last year for capital improvements.
Johnson.
A fairly new board.
All right, I got a lot of deer in the headlights looks, so I was kind of like, okay, okay.
Only original, sort of. Go ahead.
So, building department has been experiencing still very high levels of activity. We were able to work with the Mayor Scafidi and HR to hire on a full-time multi-certified inspector, which puts us back up to the staffing levels we need. The only one issue we're facing as far as capital improvements is we have several aging vehicles. And I reached out to Fred, our fleet manager. Like engineering, we just need a decent SUV to be able to throw in equipment in and out of the back of it. So the only request that I have is $45,000 for a new vehicle.
You get a $30,000 grant from NOPEC? that we
Yeah,
would
that's
put
the
towards
same
that?
grant as we got last year.
Sure.
Most likely that'll be
Yeah.
the same thing.
Or, again, 25 or 30 seems to
There
be
was
the
like
number.
29,000, I
Okay.
think, last year. Yeah.
But
So as
you're-
long as the vehicle is a hybrid vehicle,
this
you
one?
qualify for
Correct. We'll
NOPEC's
apply for it again.
grant program.
Yeah.
And they'll pay 30 and we'll pay 15, give or take.
I want to say we were reimbursed
Yeah.
28,000 last year for it.
Last
So, I
year, that
mean-
vehicle was only like, I think, 35,000 max, and so we only paid the difference.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact amount, but we only have to pay for the difference. Well, we pay the whole thing, we get reimbursed a portion of it.
Yeah, we actually have, in the building department, we have one 11 Escape Hybrid left. That was a NOPEC grant way back then. And then in talking with Fred, we just prefer the little Ford Escape Hybrids. Work great for what we need to do, very fuel efficient. So it works perfect for what we need.
These are on state bid vehicles, aren't they? Or are they no?
I don't believe the hybrids are, they would still qualify under the state bid amount, which is 75,000.
Yeah, because they're below.
Yeah. All right. Any questions for Dale on his vehicle request?
So this is a different request than Amy's request.
Correct.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if we only qualify for one grant, or if Amy's vehicle, if it was a hybrid, if we would qualify for two. Not as familiar with that NOPEC program as some of the other grants that we've gotten through them.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I believe they'll only give us well, last year was 29, It may be a little higher this year, but, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Dale?
Thank
guys.
you all very much. Yep.
Thanks, Dale.
And every department has their own vehicles, so they all have to budget them under the department, so there's going to be cars and trucks for everybody throughout the city. I mean, you're going to see it again and again, but they all have unique needs
Yeah.
for those vehicles.
Vehicles are, you'll see.
Speaking of unique needs for things.
Yes, that's very true. Good evening, Board, Mayor, Finance Director. Just like to talk a little bit about the wastewater upcoming capital request for 2025. The first item that's on the list is a sludge hauling truck. So we need 2 sludge hauling trucks to allow the facility to run optimally. We had one that was in use, that was a 2012, and we had budgeted last year and purchased a new one that we received in roughly May, June of this year. Unfortunately, at the end of last year, before we received the new truck, the 2012 went down. Working with the fleet manager, Fred, we made the determination after the second time the motor itself needed to be rebuilt that it wasn't worth actually rebuilding again. It had a problematic engine, and the rebuild wasn't guaranteed, and didn't think that a third time of investing that money into it. So we are asking for a second international truck with the upfit so an aluminum box on the back, a tarp that would be on the top. So this truck is specifically used for hauling our sludge that we generate. We haul it down to Medina, Portage counties to have land application for the sludge that's produced at the wastewater plant. So that $184,000 would cover the truck chassis, the box, and then the tarp, as well as rust proofing that would go on the chassis itself. Fred did an amazing job. We actually came under budget last year for purchasing this truck, and it's a really nice equipment, so we're looking to try to mirror our purchase with the same model and type. The second item is for a effluent pump and VFD replacement at the wastewater treatment plant. So as our flow increases, there's a point where we need to actually have a pump that pushes or pulls water out of the plant and discharges it to Tinker's Creek. There are 3 pumps at the site currently. 2 of them have been addressed. The last one is the number 2 effluent pump. This is a little bit different approach than what I've talked to and requested in the past couple years. With removing the number 1 effluent pump, we actually have some spare parts, and we're going to rebuild the unit itself as is. 2 of the other units, we actually had changed the type of technology, the type of pump that we used, looking at different options to keep that capacity or that volume that it could pump. We couldn't find a pump that actually was the right size. So we're looking at actually just rebuilding this unit that's in there currently and then adding a VFD to it so that it can ramp itself up and down as needed, which will save on electrical costs. Number 3 is our an instantaneous BOD sensor. So BOD is basically the food for bugs that comes into the wastewater plant. This is a new type of sensor that allows us to actually instantaneously monitor this. There are analysis that can be performed in the lab, but they're 5 days behind. That's how the test itself was performed. This is going to allow us to have a better response time so that as the levels that are of waste that are coming into the plant change, the operators can actually make some adjustments in the plant to have a better reaction time with that. The interesting part is we're actually going to be trialing this here in the near future, and a portion of the amount that we're going to pay this year for it can actually be applied to purchase this BOD sensor. So the amount that I'm asking of $41,000 is just the remaining aspect to purchase that for next year.
So for those who were on the board last year, this was one of Nate's items that it was kind of a lease-to-own program that we were participating in just to see how well it worked and whether we actually wanted to move forward with the purchase.
Yeah, and we're working on getting the units agreement together so that we can purchase this and then trial it for a year and then see how that works next year. So if, fingers crossed, it works well, we'll be able to do that with your guys' approval. At our Willowbrook lift station, the number 4 item is the request for a pump stand. So the pump itself is down, 38 feet underground roughly, and it's an upright pump. It has a stand itself that it sits on. This stand is just becoming rusty and whatnot, and we need to make sure that we can get a new one so that pump is supported properly so that we continue to pump the wastewater at that lift station. The number 5 item is 2 refrigerated composite samplers. So in 2 locations at the wastewater plant, they're automated composite samplers. They're a little mini fridge that you can program so that different times throughout the day, and as the flow changes, it automatically grabs the sample. We have 24-hour composite samples that are collected 365 days a year so that we can run analysis so that our wastewater plant, we can actually test the parameters between different areas of the plant to see if our key performance indicators are being met or whatnot. The 2 samplers that we have currently are, one of them is I think about 45 years old. It's obsolete. We can't get parts for it anymore. When we actually called, the gentleman said, wow, we couldn't believe that we still had something that was in operation. And then the other one is to replace our effluent sampler. And then the last item are 3 RES flow meters. So we have some return activated sludge pumps that draw settled solids from the final clarifiers. And these flow meters display what the pumps actually are discharging. They are currently not in operation. They do not work. This is an important aspect, not only as a troubleshooting tool for an operator that is there 24 hours a day. They can actually view these discharges to see is the pump pumping the way that it should, if there's something that's in there potentially causing the pump to pump less. But it's also an important parameter that we have to help run the wastewater facility itself. So there are 9 across the plant itself, and we're looking for 3 for this year. We're going to basically put one in each of our 3 buildings, and then the following next couple of years, I'll be asking for the remainder of them.
Our last week, we talked about enterprise zones when Jen was here. So we have the fitness center and the golf course and the wastewater treatment plant that all have their own revenue sources are handled differently. His total request is about $315. He's probably got 4x that in his capital fund. He's got way more than that in his regular fund. He's the second, next to the general fund, he's the best funded department in the city. So that wouldn't come out of the general capital or the general fund. It would come out of his own specific funds, and he has the money.
Does anybody have any questions on the wastewater treatment request? All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
Next, we have Dennis Sidlowski and Fred Bissell for the Service Department.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Christina. We're going to do ours a little bit different. I'm going to talk about the nuts and bolts of the equipment that we're looking to purchase. And Fred Bissell, my fleet manager, break everything down for you guys step by step. So our first item on our list is going to be our bucket truck. This is replacing a 1997 bucket truck due to the age and operating condition. The old vehicle will be used for a trade-in or listed for an auction for gov deals. The newer truck will be used for our electrical repairs throughout the city. Trucks are used also for gutter cleaning, banner and flag installation, and other repairs as necessary. Estimated cost of this is $200,000. Any questions on that truck?
Did we get a bucket truck last year?
No.
It was on their capital and it ended up getting cut.
Yes, cut it. It took it off.
I just remember bucket truck. That's all I remember.
The last bucket truck was replaced in 2015, so
Okay.
it's almost 10 years old.
I thought it would, okay.
And I will say that we remarkably get great value on things that we sell on gov deals. Like Nate had mentioned, was it the sludge truck that we just sold? I mean, for a truck that was been out of use, I think, what do we get, $30,000 I mean, we get some really great value. Fred keeps the vehicles in really good condition. So I expect to see the same when we sell this.
Sounds good.
There's always someone in the market for something.
Right. Absolutely.
Is this the only bucket truck we have, or do we have multiple?
We have two right now. One's used for our sign shop for miscellaneous stuff. The other one's used for our electrical department, street lights, wires and stuff like that repair.
But we will be trading one in or putting it on Gov Deals.
So we will continue to
We're
have
going to
two.
continue to
We'll
have
definitely
two.
have two. Our next item is going to be our 5-ton dump trucks. This is replacing two trucks from 2012 and 2013. They have had premature engine failures, engine repairs, and are out of warranty and have been costly over the last few years. Would be a lease-to-own purchase program. This represents payment 1 of 3. Cost is for 2 vehicle chassis and dump bodies as well as upfitting. Estimated annual payment is $210,000.
But you're making a 3-year commitment, correct?
Yes.
So it's 600 for the 2 trucks.
Yeah.
With financing, it would be around 210,000 a year. We're just kind of ballpark that till we have an exact number and what the financing rate would be.
Thanks, Fred.
Any questions on the dump trucks?
So just to clarify, roughly $300,000 a truck?
So it's not, the trucks are not actually the expensive part. I mean, they are part of the expense. It's the upfitting that is the more expensive part. So the lights, the
Yeah.
plows.
The trucks themselves would be approximately 250,000 apiece, and the additional cost is the financing, so.
And so if you commit to this for this year, it's assumed that the rest of the payments in budgets going further are automatically?
Like, once we commit,
Once you commit, you're committed.
just like the fire trucks and just like the police cars that we've done for a dozen years. It's a 3, I don't know how long this one is. It's 3. 3-year leases, we own them at the end. And it
Okay.
just, it's easier to do it that way than spend $610,000 this year and nothing in the next year. It just lets us balance the cash
Yep.
out better,
Okay.
in my opinion.
We actually had 2 trucks that we purchased last year that we did a little bit differently. We did pay cash for them. I did go back to council earlier this year and ask to increase the service capital budget because we had almost enough to pay for it, and I figured there's no sense in financing when you only have a $130,000 payment. There's no sense in paying 5.5% interest on that when you have the cash. Now, when you're talking, almost $750,000, it's a little bit different.
Twinsburg has probably the best snow removal of any city that I drive in, and I drive all over Ohio.
Yep.
And what do you need, 6 working to do your normal routes, or and sometimes you take out 8?
We shoot up to 11 trucks at one time.
So we have lots of 5-ton pickup, 5-ton trucks,
Yep.
but we beat them up pretty good, too.
So we trade these 2 trucks that you guys, do you trade them in or Gov's deals? Or?
Yeah, they either or. Usually when it gets close to the new trucks arriving, we look at what an actual trade-in quote, would come to. And I look at that compared to the market, and usually that's where we make a decision. If we get a really good trade-in, which is somewhat unusual, obviously we'd go that route and take that off of the capital expense off the top. But typically, the used trucks like that, especially municipal trucks, usually have a lower trade-in, and we can sell those to the public through Gov Deals and the auction. And we're, as Christina mentioned, have been getting fabulous prices out of vehicles, even older trucks and units that were out of service, or that wastewater truck, which actually had a blown engine. We still got $30,000 out of that truck, so.
Sounds good.
I don't know if anyone has familiarity with titles, but if anyone who knows my background knows that I do, we actually sold a vehicle 2 weeks ago that still had an Ohio yellow title, which those have been out of circulation since the late 80s, early 90s, and that was the vehicle that I think we got $30,000 on. So, I mean, for something that old to sell that well, we take really good care of what we have.
Sounds good.
All right, the next item on our list is a drum roller. This is an asphalt drum roller which compacts the asphalt when it's applied to an excavation area. Our current unit is way too undersized for our road repairs that we're doing right now, and the cost of this is $65,000. This is basically for when clean water comes into town, they'll do a valve repair. It's an 8x8 section of asphalt they rip out and stuff like that. We go back and repair it. We back bill clean water for their, our time, effort, materials and stuff. Problem is our machine that we have now is just too light. We're not getting that compaction ratio, so we need to upgrade and get a better patch to our standards. We put the asphalt patch out there.
And Dennis, you also use it when we do other than clean water repairs, when we do other
We
street
do it in the
repairs.
fields, we do the trails, we multiple
Right.
use on this. Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
Any questions on drum roller? Goes hand in hand with the next item.
Right. The next item is going to be an asphalt hot box. This is going to replace our 1994 unit due to age and condition. This trailer has been repaired several times. The cost of this is $32,000. We're going after this hot box for a reason. It's going to be dumpable. It's going to be easier for the guys, more, what do you call it?
Right now, you shovel it out?
Yeah, because right now, if it doesn't dump, you got to shovel into the front of it, pull it way back, then just, distribute it and stuff like that. This is also used for coal patching in the wintertime as well, for patching the roadways, so it's a multi-use vehicle. I'll talk about this one.
One quick thing with the asphalt hot box, the newer unit, as he already mentioned, this one's a 1994, so it's a 30-year-old unit. The new unit would be way more efficient as far as the burner system and insulation, everything that's in it to keep the asphalt hot. So it'll be much cheaper to run, as well as being a little more efficient because the fact it's dumpable, we can keep the asphalt moved to the back all the time. When they have to get large amounts out, they don't have to shovel it all out by hand. They can actually dump and spread it in a ground area for repair. So all in all, it'll be quite a bit more efficient with fuel consumption as well as the actual speed of the repair. So.
Efficiency. Next item on our list is a box trailer for our Field Pro ball field tractor. Last year, we purchased a tractor just for strictly ball fields. If anybody's seen Liberty Field, they've seen a couple of the fields at Glen Meadow. We're using a red clay dust, which absorbs the water. So if we get a rainfall, we get out there with our machine, we drag it, they're playing ball that night. So this has many implements that go with this piece of machinery, so what we want to try to do is keep everything contained. Instead of going to the field, dragging it, coming back for a blade, or coming back for a screen. So everything can be contained in this one trailer. Cost of this is $18,000 for this enclosed trailer. Questions on that?
No?
Then next on our list is a skid steer trailer. This is a replacement of 30-year-old trailer used for the current skid steer. Cost of this is $18,000. Fred's probably going to talk about this because there's a lot of holes in the trailer structural-wise. The decking is bad. It's just, go ahead, this is your beat.
Fred, before you start, can you tell me what a skid trailer or a skid steer is? Because I don't know.
A skid steer is a small, either four-wheeled, in this case, ours has tires. They either have tires or tracks. With a small loader, they're very compact. And they actually turn by locking the wheel, so they turn like a bulldozer.
Okay.
We use, there's a lot of different attachments. You can use them for landscaping, from moving materials, a lot of different implements, post hole diggers.
Front-end loader kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
All of that.
Okay.
So, but they're very compact, they're kind of heavy for their size, so you have to have a fairly heavy trailer to handle those. And they also are, the weight balance is off considerably because they have a lot of extra weight on the back because of the attachment or the loader you put on the front. So you normally want a very low trailer to load them on because they're difficult to run on steep ramps for some of the higher trailers. So the trailer we have is literally 30 years old. The steel decking on it is got a lot of holes in it. We've been watching it very closely for the last few years and making sure it was still safe to use, but it's getting to the point where we would have to rebuild the entire trailer. And for a 30-year-old trailer, the cost to cut that all apart, put a new steel deck in, and weld the whole thing back together and repaint it, sandblast and paint, would probably cost close to as much as a new trailer, and it just doesn't make sense to do that with a 30-year-old unit. So.
And this trailer also is used for other items as well, other pieces of equipment, implements.
Anybody have any questions on the box trailer or skid steer trailer? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so the next meeting will be next week, Tuesday, September 10th, same time, 5:30. We will have police and fire, so Chief Tom Mason from the police department and Chief Steve Bosso from the fire department. I see I forgot an O on Steve's last name, so don't tell him. That'll be fixed before next week.
Sounds good. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Capital Improvement Board's meeting at 6:23 PM. First motion? Christina, second?
Aye.
All right, motion, the meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the meeting is adjourned at 6:23.